channel. So today I'll be showing you guys how to make this halter neck dress with a circle bottom. So for that I'm going to be using this fabric here. I already made a video on how you're going to cut the bottom, so now I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to cut the top part of this here. To open up my fabric, and then I'm going to fold it into two. So guys, I've gone ahead and cut out what I'm going to need here. So basically what you're going to do, as you can see, I have two pieces of this here. One is for my front panel, one is my back panel. So just you measure your widest part of your upper body, which is going to be your bust. You divide it by 4. So for me, I'm working with 33 bust divided by 4. That's going to be I'm working with 38 bust divided by 4. That's going to be 9.5. So plus extra 1 inch for my seam allowance. So what I'm working with here is about 10.5. And then with this, and then you check your shoulder to waist. That's your half length. The shoulder to waist I'm working with is 18 plus extra 1 inch for seam allowance. That's 19. So now I've told you guys how I got the length and how I got the width. And as you can see, this fabric is folded into 2. And then with this particular one, I traced out the back one. So basically you place it on a fabric and make sure that you have about 1.5 inches for your zip allowance by the center, and then you place it on top. So that one is also 2 here. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to start marking out what I'm going to need here. So guys, first we're going to start with our basic bodice pattern. So as you can see, this is where my front neckline is, and this is where my front pattern starts, and this is the back pattern. So I'm going to mark it so you guys can see. So as you can see, this is my zip allowance for the back panel. This is where my center front for the top one is, for the front panel is. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark the shoulder, and the shoulder I'm working with is 17 divided by 2. That's about that's going to be 8.5. So I'm going to mark the shoulder I'm working with here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to come down, mark my armhole. So that's your armhole around. For me, I'm working with so the armhole I'm working with is 19 divided by 2, so that's going to be about 9.5. So I'm going to mark 9.5 here. So I've marked 9.5. The next thing you're going to do is to curve in your armhole, and then you're going to mark from this point here of your bust. You're going to mark what your bust measurement is. So remember, I told you the bust measurement I'm working with is 38 divided by 4. That's 9.5 plus extra 1 inch. So I'm working with 10.5 for the bust. I'm going to mark that here, and then you come down to the waist. The waist I'm working with is 33. 33 divided by 4, that's 8.25 plus extra 2 inches. So 1 inch for darting, and then the other 1 inch is for the seam allowance. So that's going to be about 10.25. Sorry. So I'm going to mark that here, and then I'm going to connect these two together. So guys, I'm going to connect these two lines together, your waist to your shoulder, your waist to the bust, mark the line to join it. So now we'll come on back to this neckline again. So what you're going to do is, what I'm going to do now is to mark 3 by 3 neckline. So 3 inches here by about 3 inches for the length. So I'm going to connect it together and give it like this curve here. Come down here, mark your 1 inch, just like the way you would do for your normal bodice, right? Connect these two together for your shoulder slope. You came down 1 inch here, connected your shoulder slope. Now what you're going to do is, and then you're going to mark 1 inch here. This is going to be the back neckline. So you're going to mark about 1 inch here. So this is going to be for the back neckline, and then you're going to connect it from this point here, and then you're going to connect it all the way to this point. So what you're going to do now is come down on this line by 1 inch, right? On this line here, that's this curve that you've made here for your front neckline. Come down by 1 inch there, or you can make yours 1.5. It depends on you. Come down on that line, this curve here, this line, come down 1 inch there, and then you're going to connect from this curve to this here, to the curve that you made for your armhole. Remember, this is going to be an halter neck curve. Remember, this is going to be halter neck, so we're going to mark from this 1 inch mark that we made here. We're going to connect it to the curve at our armhole. So you see, like this straight line now is going to go all the way down to the armhole here, and you're just going to blend in the curve. So now you see all this part of this here is going out. So we are cutting off all this part. But before we cut it out, what we are going to do now is to measure out the neckline. So you're going to measure out your back neckline. So place your tape and measure out from this point of the neckline here. You're going to measure out what you have for the back. So for me, the back neckline is 5 inches, right? I have 5 inches here. So I'm going to just write back 5 inches. And remember this. And then for my front, I'm just going to mark it this way. Also measure out what you have for the curve for your back. So for me, what I have is about also 5. Yeah, I also have 5 inches for the front neckline. So I'm going to write front for the front is going to be 5 inches. But what you're going to do, remember, we're not going to be attaching this by the shoulder. We're not going to be attaching, because normally when you attach your normal bodice, you have about half an inch on the shoulder to join the two shoulders together. But remember, the neck of this top here is going to have like a turtleneck. So there's nothing, it's going to have a turtleneck going around your neck. So there's nothing on top of your shoulder. So that's half an inch you're supposed to use to attach the front and the back. So that half an inch you're supposed to use to attach the front and the back, you're just going to subtract it from whatever you got here. So I'm going to subtract half an inch for the back and half an inch for the neckline in front. So the total I'm going to be working with is going to be about 4.5 each. 4.5 each. So you see, that half an inch I'm supposed to use to join this shoulder together, I've subtracted it now. So now we're going to go ahead and start cutting it out. So, and guys, as you can see for the back, I added even up till when I'm measuring the back neckline. You see how I measured the front? I just measured all the way from here. Curve is where my front stops, right? This is my front neckline. But for the back, you see, I measure from this point here up until I even added my zip allowance. So that's why the two of them are the same. You see, I added this zip allowance also at the back here. So just reminding you guys, because this is the back. You see, this extra 1.5 here is also added to the back neckline. So now I'll start cutting it off. So guys, as you can see, I've gone ahead and cut this out, and then cut off the excess on this curve here, and then cut out my neckline. So now I'm also going to cut out the front neckline here. So I'm going to trace this out here, the front neckline. I'm going to cut out the curve, because as you can see, I first cut out the back and then separated the back from the front to cut out the front neckline. So what we're going to do now, as you can see, this is what it looks like now. So what we're going to do now is to mark the darts of this here. So I'm just going to show you guys how I'm going to mark the darts, but for that I'm going to turn this to the wrong side of the fabric, so I don't have a lot of chalk on the front of this fabric. So I'm going to turn it to the back. So this is the front here, the right side. I'm going to flip it over to the back and show you guys how to mark the dart. So guys, the breast point to breast point that I'm working with is about 8 inches, right? Plus divided by 2, that's 4, and then plus half an inch, that's 4.5. So I'm going to mark 4.5 here, and then I'm also going to mark the 4.5 here, and then from this point here. So from here, I'm going to measure about 11 inches down. That's from my shoulder to the breast point is about 11 inches. And then I'm going to come down by about, so your dart is supposed to stop about 1 inch before your breast line. So that's where it's supposed to start. So this is mine here. So what you're going to do is just to mark half an inch on each side. And then you're going to angle it up, angle it up to this point. So this is going to be my dart. So as you can see, I've marked my dart. So I'm going to have this dart on both sides. And then I'm also going to dart the back neckline. The back is the same, but for the back, you're going to stop about, from the shoulder to about, I normally stop about 8 inches for the back dart. So that's how I'm going to, but remember this here for the back is not going to have a dart. It's not going to have a dart because we're going to cut out the back now. So I'm going to show you guys how to give it that curve at the back. So guys, the client wants the opening at the back to be about shoulder to 14.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that here. And then the next thing you're going to do is to determine the width, like the wideness of the opening at the back. So what you're going to do, so we've determined from the shoulder to where the dart at the back, the opening at the back is going to stop. So it's going to stop at 14.5. So now we're going to check how much opening we're going to have at the back here. So guys, you see what I was saying. So this is not going to have a band, because if you look closely at this picture, you'll find out that it has a band, but this is going directly to the skirt pattern, to the skirt. That's the bottom part of this here, which I've already made a video for. So what I'm going to do now is to determine the widest part, that's this center part here, the widest part of this opening. So for me, I'm going to use about 6 inches, because if you look closely, you will see is right at the center of her back. So this part here, so that's going to be about, I'm using 6 inches. But if you want, that's after removing I first marked out the zip allowance, because remember, this is the back panel. I have already 1.5 for the zip allowance, so I marked it out. And then from this, apart from this zip allowance, I went in by extra 6 inches. If you want, you can also go in more. It depends on you, but I'm going to stop it at about 6 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to go up to the neckline. So for the top part here, what I'm going to do now, remember I marked out 1.5 for all the zip allowance I'm going to need here, right? All the way down. So this is your zip allowance if you fold it now. So what I'm going to do is to connect from this point here, or make it about 2 inches from the top part here. And then just 2 inches from this top part, or you can just use your zip allowance, just the 1.5 that you marked. But I'm just going to make mine about 2 inches from this top part here, and then try to draw like a cone shape, right? Try to draw like a cone shape. And then when you come down to where because this is the widest part of this, right? This is where I drew in my 6 inches, right? This is where I drew in my 6 inches. So you're going to draw like a cone shape, and make sure that you come in and meet that 6 inches mark that you made here, and then you're going to curve it right in. So this is how I'm going to get the back neckline. So the back opening. So now I'm going to cut all this out here. So you'll see me cutting it out. So I'm going to start from here, follow this line, and then cut this out. You see? So now this is what the back opening looks like. So if you look at the picture, if you look at the picture and look at this now, you'll find that it's the same. So you see what it looks like. But for this, I'm going to be using a lining to make this stick. So I'm going to trace this out on a lining. This is the lining I'm going to be using here. I'm going to trace this out to double the layer of this here. So if you feel like this 6 inches is not going to be, and remember, you see, I still have my ½ an inch for the seam allowance that is going to attach to the skirt part, right? So the video I uploaded before this is where you're going to find the bottom part of this here. So you see, I have my ½ an inch here for the zip, which is going to attach to the bottom of the skirt. But I'm going to give it just a short darting under here, like a dart that is going to end about 4 inches here, and then also 4 inches here. Just a small dart to make it stiff. So that's basically it for the back. So I'm going to go ahead and trace it out and come back and show you guys for the neckline. So guys, I've gone ahead and traced out this here. I used this fabric for the back. So I traced out double of the fabric itself, but for the front I'm going to use lining for it. So basically what I'm going to do is to open up the lining, sew up this part here, hold it up on this part here, and then do the same for the back. So I'm going to close up just the part that has to do with the armhole, and then I'm going to close up the parts that has to do with this middle section here. So that's what I'm going to do. So guys, this is what it looks like. I've gone ahead and sewn the inside. As you can see, I stitched the lining with this here and flipped it right side out, and then gave it a dart. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to show you guys what the back looks like. So I did one side of the back. So remember, for the back I told you guys I'm not going to be using lining. Instead I'm going to be using the same fabric on itself. So this is the back here. This is the wrong side. As you can see, I've already darted it. Like I told you, because of this thing I cut out here, my dart can't go up like a normal dart at the back. So this is what it looks like, and this is how I did it here. So basically, you take the fabric, place it right side facing each other, right? And then the two of them, you place it right side facing each other, your lining and then the main fabric. In my case, I'm using the same fabric for the two. So what you're going to do is you first make a stitch all the way around here, and then make a stitch all the way around here. And then you're going to notch and cut off the excess on the inside so that you can release any tension on the inside, especially this edgy part here. And you're also going to do the same for this part. Notch and just cut, but try to stay away from the main stitch that you made. So after that, what you're going to do is to flip it inside out. So this is me flipping it out right now. So I'm going to flip it out, and just like that you have the back, the second part of the back here. you have the second part of the back. So all the difference now is that I've not ironed this one, so you just have to go to the sewing machine, to the you get your iron and try to iron this down. So now you see you have your 2 back panel, and then you still have your 1 inch for your 1.5 for your zip allowance here. So what you're going to do after this, after ironing it, is also give it your own the darts for this side. So you're going to dart it also, and then after that you're going to join the front and the back together, right? So there are 2 ways you can join it. You can just take it the way it is now, place it at the back and make a stitch and close it up. Or another way to join it is to find the center here. This one is if you're trying to make it neat and you don't want to show the seam. So you're just going to find the center of this side here and find the center of this dart here, and then you're going to make a stitch all the way on the inside, right? Like make a stitch, sew it all the way from the end, sew it inside, and then hold this line down also. So when you do this way, the stitch on the side is not going to be visible. It's going to be on the inside, right? It's going to be on the inside of the clothes. But if you want, for me, I'm going to use this method of sewing it just out, and then I'm going to now use like English weaving to finish up the end. Just sew it like this instead of trying to hide the stitch, hide the seam on the side. So that's basically it. I'm going to go now and join these 2 sides and then come back and finish up the neckline for you guys. So this is the skirt part of it from the previous video. I've gone ahead, put in the pocket and everything. This is the seam allowance I left for the skirt part here. So what I'm going to do is to join this front panel together, and then I'm going to attach it to the bottom of the dress. This is the skirt part. I'm going to attach it to it, and then we'll do the neckline. So guys, this is what it looks like. I've gone ahead and put in zip at the back. So after joining the top and the bottom, you put in your zip, and then I'm going to link a video of how the bottom of this was cut. So and then now we're going to cut the neckline. So this is what it looks like now. So to cut the neckline, I'm going to trace it on a piece of paper first, and then I'm going to trace it on the fabric. So guys, to cut the front panel, so the first thing I'm going to do is to draw a line here. To cut the neckline, not the front panel. So what I'm going to do first is, remember the mark that we made, right? The neckline that we calculated. So for me is about 4.5. That's around the neckline on one side, minus the 5 inch 0.5 for the neck, for joining the shoulder. Just that calculation we made initially. So for me that's going to be about so 4.5 here is what I'm going to mark. So 4.5, I'm going to mark it up. So this is my front panel, and this is the back, right? This is the back, this is the front, right? So from this point of that's the beginning of this here to this point here, is that 4.5 for me, right? And then from this, again, for the back panel, from this point here to this point here is my 4.5. So I'm going to connect this line together and mark it up. So I want it to be about 1.5 inch for the neckline. That's the width of the length, sorry, is going to be 1.5. That's the thickness. So I'm going to mark 1.5 all the way. So guys, the next thing we're going to do after marking this rectangle, the next thing you're going to do is to come up here by 1/2 inch and then go in on this line by 1/2 inch, right? This is the front part. So what you're going to do on this side here is to connect this 1/2 inch to blend it into this line, right? Blend it in to give it a curve. This is normally, if you want, you could use just the band and place it, wrap it around the neckline. Just make sure that you're using your complete width, which for me is going to be about the 4.5 for the front and the 4.5 for the back. That's total of 9 inch. If you want, you can just go ahead and put in your band. But for me, I'm going to try to give it a curve so that the neckline doesn't, so that it just doesn't stand. So it just falls, and it will look better that way. So the next thing you're going to do is mark about 1/2 inch on this line. So guys, you see, you have one on this side and then one on this side. So what you've gone 1/2 inch up and then 1/2 inch. So this point here, you're going to connect it to this point here. So this is the new neckline, the new neckline for this here. So this part, so you're going to now go to your the main fabric you're going to use, and then you're going to trace out this here. So what you're going to do now is to mark about 1/2 inch for your seam allowance, like mark 1/2 inch up here, and then also 1/2 inch at the bottom here. and then trace it, cut it out and trace it. So that's what I'm going to do. So at this point also, you're going to make sure that you're marking the 1/2 inch and just follow it up on this line, right? The 1/2 inch, and then just go up this way. You're not going to put any seam allowance here, because remember, the 4.5 at the back already includes the zip allowance, so there's no need for seam allowance on this. So just make sure that you place your fabric. I'm going to show you guys. So guys, you see this part here is my seam allowance at the top part. This is also my seam allowance at the bottom part. That's this mark that I made here, as I've cut it out now. You see, I also gave it that angle at the top part. So what you're going to do, this is your center front, right? The center front that is going to be right at your neck. So what you're going to do now is to find how to angle it on your fabric, right? So I found how to angle it on my fabric now. I'm going to pin it down and cut it. I'm going to cut 2 of these, and then you can iron in a facing into it, and then just put it on the neckline. So guys, you see the angle that I made here. So I'm going to open it. I've cut 2 of it now. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to open it up now. So what I'm going to do is to make a stitch all the way round here. This is going to be the top part, right? This is going to be the part facing your neck. This is going to be the part attached to the dress. So I'm going to, if you want, iron in your stay on one part, and then you're going to go to your sewing machine, sew up the top part, flip it this way, and then attach this end here to the dress. So guys, this is where I notched the center. Now I'm not going to use the stay for mine. I've stitched it. So this is where I notched it. I notched the top, and I also notched the center of this here. So what I'm going to do is to fold this in, and then use this here to put it. I'm going to put this inside of this, and then I'm going to stitch it all the way around. And then when I get to the back, what I'm going to do for the back part of it is I'm just going to remember the 1.5 seam allowance. So I'm going to go in here by 1.5, and that's where this one is going to enter. And then also on this side, go in by 1.5, and then fix this one in. And then the remaining here, I'm going to just fold it into 2, and then put pressing button on it. So I'm going to just put pressing button on it, and that's going to be the finishing part of this here. So guys, this is it here. This is really nice. I've gone ahead and finished up the neck. So it's just left for me to put in pressing button 1, 2 here. Put one at the top, one at the bottom, one at the top, one at the bottom, just to hold it down. And then this is what it looks like in front, as you can see, and it's really neat because of the lining. So this is the bottom here. It has pockets. So don't forget to check the link in the description how to make the bottom. It's just the last video I uploaded. And then this is the back here. So let me show you guys the back. So this is what the back looks like. You just need a short zip for the back. And then this is what the top part here looks like. So that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.